Welcome to Inside Design with Kandrac and Kole. This podcast is a conversation between two business partners, Joanne Kandrac and Kelly Kole. Join us for a lively conversation about all things interior design, from current projects, trade show experiences, worldwide travel, what's in, what's out, and all the challenges and wins they've had running their successful design business. Whether you're a seasoned interior designer, new to the industry, or a creative enthusiast, you will walk away with insightful information, newfound inspiration, and a smile on your face after listening to these two. And here they are, Joanne and Kelly.
Okay, ready, get set, go. Hey everybody, welcome to Inside Design with Kandrac and Kole. And today we're talking about why outdoor design is just as important as inside design with our guest, Wambui Ippolito. So hopefully by now you have listened to our episode 181 about our great trip to Cosentino Sea Next in Cabo San Lucas. And that is where we met Wambui. She spoke on a panel, and we had to keep the conversation going because she is so interesting. So here's a little bit about her. She's an award-winning landscape designer and horticulturist who in 2021 was named one of 11 revolutionary female landscape designers and architects everyone should know by Veranda magazine. Heavily influenced by her early years in Kenya and a life filled with worldwide travel, Wambui has become one of the most sought-after garden designers in the country. In addition to her landscape design work, she lectures widely both in the United States and internationally. She specializes in fine estate gardening with an emphasis on designing for humans and their pets. She views nature as the greatest healer and seeks to make her garden elegant and curative. Wambui is also a trained horticulturist, having graduated from the New York Botanical Garden School of Professional Horticulture. Wow.
I'm so excited, and the timing could not be more perfect
Lucky
with
to
spring here.
Have her today.
Yes. So before we jump in and chat with her, we want to let you know that this episode is sponsored by our friends at Tebow. Established in 1886, they are the oldest continuously operating wallpaper company in the United States. Bet you didn't know that. If you need wall covering, fabric, trim in a pinch, they have the best stock levels and inventory levels, I'm telling you. And they house it all in their state-of-the-art warehouse in Charlotte, their distribution center in Charlotte, North Carolina. So with 95% of their product in stock at all times, amazing. You can really enjoy, as an account holder, really quick shipments with their in-stock stuff shipping in 2 days. So that's huge. Make sure to go to their website, and we want to make sure you look at, if you're watching us on YouTube, you can see Russ has pulled it up, but there's a inspiration link that you can go to where it says room styles, and you can see all these rooms that Tebow fabric and wall covering and trim is all in these rooms, and it's so beautiful. So they really are our go-to. If you want to open up a trade account, you want to go to tebowdesign.com/trade/podcast, and they will know that you heard about them from us, but we really adore them. So Thank you, Tebow.
Yes. Thank you.
So welcome, Wambui. We're so happy that you're here.
Thank you so much for having me, and it's so good to see you.
You
Post
too.
Cosentino in Cabo
Yeah.
San, because I didn't want to leave, but here we are.
I know, right?
Neither did we.
I know. Well, before we start, I cannot wait to send this episode to my dad. So my parents live in Long Island. They live in Quogue,
Mhm.
New York. And my
Mhm.
dad is the only male on the all-female West Hampton Garden Club, in the
Oh,
Garden
wow.
Club group. And
That's
so
awesome.
he's a huge gardener, and I laugh when they have all their kind of their floral competitions, and there's my dad like right in the center of all the women. So he's gonna
Bless
love
him.
this conversation. So much to talk about, but
Mhm.
first off, just kind of give us a little background and tell us how your experiences growing up and gardening in Kenya led to kind of what you do now in the United States.
Okay, thank you. So I grew up in I was born in Kenya.
Yes.
My parents are Kenyan, I'm Kenyan, and we lived in suburbia for the most part, outside the major city, Nairobi. But we also had a farm in the Rift Valley, where I spent a lot of time as a child, and even now as a grown up, we still go back often. So my life and my siblings' lives was just waking up and just walking out with the dogs and just
Mm,
going as far as we could on any given day and coming back home before the sun set. And it was a
wow.
very beautiful landscape. If anybody's ever been to Kenya or East Africa, knows that it's just the most incredible landscape, wide open spaces, uninhibited. Um, you know, just walking in this wonderful, wonderful place. And it meant so much and does now still because
Mhm.
that is where my people come from. So I was walking where all my ancestors had walked for, millennia before I was ever there. So I'm very, very much influenced by that experience of freedom, the colors that I saw, the way the landscape arranged itself. I found later on that all this worked its way into how I work, this sense
Mhm.
of openness, how I arrange my gardens, the planting palettes that I use in my gardens. So with that and the fact that my mother was a very avid gardener when I was a child, and also my Aunt Mary, her sister, they were very
Mhm.
avid gardeners. They always had very beautiful gardens wherever they lived. And my mother was also a diplomat, so that afforded my siblings and I the ability to see gardens in other parts of the world, and to really learn about how people arranged their living spaces. So
Yes.
all that kind of,
So you were
worked
already
it
kind of, yeah, groomed for that almost.
exactly. It was all in my algorithm,
Yeah.
so that when I
Well, it's
finally
a
go
sorry,
ahead,
go
I'm
ahead.
sorry.
It's a
Oh,
great point that you bring up because I remember when we were in Marrakesh and we went for lunch
To the
to
anime gardens.
well, we went to the anime gardens, but we also went to lunch at
Oh, I can't remember the name of it.
Majorelle?
um um no, oh my gosh. I'm thinking of it's a very, very famous hotel that I'm just having a brain lapse, but
Dar,
the
is it Dar something? DAR something? Dar.
no, I'll
I
think of
could be
it in
thinking of
in
someone.
1
Yeah.
second, but it had the
Hmm.
most beautiful gardens. But when you see
Hmm.
gardens in another country or in another place that aren't like what you grew up in or what your topography is, it's it just does something to you. And so
It
I think it's
does. It
interesting that
does.
you traveled a lot and your range of reference was quite large.
And with that, with the gardens, it was also interior design because my mother is a very fabulous untrained interior designer. I mean, it
Oh.
didn't matter where we lived in the most beautiful house. She has always collected beautiful things. She has always put things well together. I always lived in very beautiful homes, and I think it's maybe the last the last couple of months, Veranda Magazine had a spread in
Mhm.
which I talk about how I grew up in the homes that I lived in and how my mother designed the interior of these homes. And so I grew up knowing that beauty was both inside and outside, and it was very important to me to always live, in a beautiful home. I remember when
She
I met my husband. I'm sorry, I'll just say this. When I met my husband, and he came to my tiny little apartment that I had, he said, "Oh my God, your apartment is so fantastic." And I said, "Well, yeah, I have to have a beautiful home." So yes, so all that worked into the
What
algorithm of my.
what I was gonna say was that your mother must be so proud. I mean, I would be as a mother be
Oh
so
yeah.
proud that I inspired, my child to do that and that they
She
ran
is.
with it.
Yeah, she really is. And she continues to garden. She just finished a final home in Kenya, and I'm going to do the garden for her. Hopefully, I can start in August of this year. So yeah,
Wow.
she's very proud, and I know that, all this that I know that I do comes from my childhood, but also the fact that I have this really great mom who just encouraged us and encouraged me and was herself somebody that I wanted to be like. So that was,
That is so
she's
awesome.
fabulous.
Wonderful.
Yeah. Hmm.
So was there one garden that was particularly impactful for you in your career, or one that always kind of sticks out to you in your memory as
Here's the funny thing is,
amazing?
it's not so it's more than just the garden. It's the
Yeah.
garden, the person, like
Mhm.
the owner of the garden,
Yes.
and the way that person lives. So I would
Good
say,
point.
having never met her, Marella Agnelli, the of the Fiat family in Italy,
Oh,
Marella
okay.
Agnelli lived this incredibly classy, beautiful life. Her husband was, what's his name? Agnelli, Agnelli, very
Mhm.
famous man. And they lived this fabulous life with these fabulous gardens and these fabulous homes. So it's the whole package for me.
Yes.
Because I've been to pretty gardens, and you meet the owner and they're like a barracuda, and then it just takes away from it. Or people live sloppy lives, so it's always
Yes,
that whole
yes.
package. It's the package.
Yes.
And I think
Yes.
that's what we should aspire to as this. We can't just be an interior designer or a landscape designer or a furniture designer. It's the totality of it that
Oh
that
my gosh,
creates the experience.
it's such a great point. I just finished the book, The Marvelous Lives of Marjorie Merriweather Post, and
Ah.
she
Mhm,
was she had, estates all over the United States, and she was an
mhm,
amazing gardener
mhm.
and an amazing woman. So
Yeah,
I it
yeah,
really resonates with me exactly what you're
yeah.
saying. Yeah.
And you know what? You said that, and then I just remembered the two gardens here in the U.S. that just blow my mind are Oak Springs
Yeah.
in Virginia, of course.
Okay.
Uh, I had two of my classmates from school worked there. They did internships there when we were in school, and I mean, Bunny just had. I mean, she was the everything of everything. And
Mhm.
and then up here in Connecticut, Ann Bass, Bass, the Texan
Yeah.
gazillionaire who just recently passed
Mhm.
away, in Kent, Connecticut. She had this I mean, the most incredible property ever. The gardens are
Wow.
just incredible. And my friend actually is the director of horticulture there. So I mean, just these fabulous gardens. And then when I was very young
Yeah.
in school, uh, actually I was still in school. I worked for Martha Stewart in Bedford, in Katona,
That's
where she
right.
lives. And
Uh-huh.
I mean, those, you can't get a better education than
Right. Yeah.
than
I I
that.
I
So
wanna take one of her master classes. I keep seeing them pop up, and I think she's
yeah,
fascinating. I
yeah,
can't
yeah,
imagine
yeah,
working for her and all that you learned.
yeah. And being challenged daily, and learning, and having to challenge yourself to grow. So anyway, I guess for me it's the totality. It's the
Mhm.
person, the house, how they live, and the outdoors as well.
This is not in our outline at all, but this just occurred to me. So I think about it when we design a room or we've finished a home and we go back to it, many years later. Like, for example, we have a client who we worked with 17 years ago who called us back. And the house, she
Mm-hmm.
hasn't changed too much. She's kept a lot of it. So when you finish these beautiful gardens, do you have to train someone on how to keep them alive and how to prune them and how to, once you leave, how do you make sure that they don't ruin it?
Well, sometimes, a lot of the times with gardens, you end up doing what's called design maintenance. So you design it, and then, your crew comes in every week or
Okay.
bi-weekly to maintain
Mhm.
the garden. But the really sad thing about this, and I'm sure this also happens with interior designers, is you create this fabulous space, and then 5 years later, the client sells the home, and they come in, they cut down the trees, they change everything,
Yeah.
they put stonework, and or they
Ah,
paint the walls yellow, or whatever, and then it's gone. So it's very ephemeral. It just comes and goes, so you can't be too
Yeah.
attached. And I find now that my thinking is, and my intention now is to work more in public spaces, renovating public gardens, or renovating public spaces, and bringing them back to what they should have been, or finding spaces that have had nothing done to them and then creating a plan for 30, 40, 50, 100 years out. So
And
that's
for
that's
so
where
many
I'm
people
thinking.
to enjoy them,
Exactly. And
for
then
to get
doing the
many
right
eyes.
kind of planting, thinking about the native ecology, doing things in a more intentional way.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hmm.
Absolutely. I thought of the hotel La Mamunia.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
Oh,
we
La
went there for
Mamunia, yes, La
yeah,
Yeah.
Mamunia,
in
Very
Marrakesh.
beautiful.
Oh my
Yeah.
gosh, those
yeah.
gardens. We were lost. We were trying to find where we were going for lunch, and we were walking down these garden paths, and holy
Did you go to
camolie.
Majorelle when you were in Morocco?
We did not, because our
Hmm.
guide wanted us to go to the Anima Gardens
Hmm. Hmm.
instead.
Hmm. Okay.
And we were just so we spent an entire day walking through those gardens and all the sculptures
Oh,
intermixed.
Hmm.
And what I loved about it was not only were the landscape design and the flowers amazing, but there were all these herbs mixed in. So you'd
Hmm.
walk past,
mhm.
and the
Smell.
lavender was just amazing, and the sage and the oregano was everywhere, and you just wanted I mean, I touched everything. It was on my hand, smelled so good.
That's
um
wonderful.
it was a
Yeah,
great way to spend the day.
and the best thing about it is, at La Mamunia, is you walk through the gardens, and that's such a beautiful, like, sensorial experience, and then you walk
Hmm.
into this incredible space, and that's what indoor outdoor living is. I
Yeah.
mean, that's what it's supposed to be about. It's
Yes,
about the
yes.
the the entire experience.
Yes. And I think
Yeah.
a lot of people, a lot of times we walk into people's homes, and from the front door all the way, you can see all the way through to the back, and you can see the backyard through maybe their family room and a massive window. And there's a big ugly grill like sitting on their
Yeah.
deck. And they just I don't think it's front of mind for a lot of people, because either they don't have the skill, or they don't want to spend the money maybe. But I just feel like the outdoors is as important as the indoor furnishings that we're doing. And
Yeah.
knowing somebody like you and being inspired by all that you do is, to me, it's really important. And we talk a lot about, you don't know what you don't know. And so I'm really hoping that a lot of people will really think about the beauty of the outdoors and how it affects them on the inside after they watch
Well,
this.
well, thank you for saying that. And I am very inspired by interior designers, because I truly believe that there are people who actually have the eye. I call it the
Mhm.
eye. And you can tell when people have the eye, because they
Yeah.
have the eye is more than just walking in and picking out fabrics, or, you know, picking out wallpaper. It's travel, like you going to Morocco and Marrakesh and going through these gardens that inspire you to do something. It's music, it's reading books, it's just going and sitting in a cafe and just watching people go by. I mean, all this becomes that soul and essence of a creative, whoever that may be, whether they write
Mhm.
music, whether they design. So it took me a long time to really accept that I am an artist, because for many years I thought that I was something else, you know. But I finally realized that I am an artist. I have these notebooks where I wrote something 10 years ago, and I'm like, okay, I'll go back to that. And it's because of
Mhm.
something that I saw that a designer did here, or I heard of some music, or I went to a music concert and they did the lights a certain way, and
Mhm.
and then all that works together. So I also very much am inspired by interior designers, because when they have the optic, oh my God, they can really help you figure out for me, figure out how I'm going to continue it outside.
They say, a designer's eyes are always open, and I think that's so true. If I'm in a public place, I'm looking at the
Oh,
ceiling, I'm
yes.
looking at the lighting, I'm always taking it in, like, and other people are just, waiting for their meal to come, and I've already figured out, what kind of wallpaper they use there. Yeah, so I feel like our eyes are always open. We're always inspired by different things. And like you said, travel is really a big one. But I want to
Mhm.
talk to you just really quickly about one of the things that you talked about on your panel that was so interesting to us about the gardens that how you think about them with people that have special needs
Mhm.
and autism and how you do the gardens for that
We,
that
we have two very good friends who are designers, Shelley Rosenberg with Acorn and Oak, and she lives in
Mhm.
Aspen right now, but she's from Texas, and Jane Dagme, who also does a lot of work in High Point for the neurodiversity community, studying all of that. And so you're really tapped into that. And we thought that was super interesting when you talked about it on the panel.
Well, so like I said, I come from Kenya, so we grew up with all kinds of people, and autism was never a thing.
Right.
We had classmates who were different or behaved differently from us, and you worked around them and you worked with them to get to wherever it was you were trying to go. And when I started to make gardens and come across clients who may have children who were autistic or were of special needs, you know, I started to, you know, what is it that the child is doing? Where are they sitting? What
Mm-hmm.
colors are they playing with? How are they interacting with this landscape? Are they just sitting in one spot? Are they running around? Are they touching things? What are they running away from? What are they gravitating towards? And then more than anything, what color are they comfortable with, right?
Yeah.
When you are designing for any child, especially, even as an interior designer, and I remember having this conversation with a lady who came up to me in Cabo after I gave my talk. Just
Mm-hmm.
hand out some colors to the child and some paper and just see what they do. Just have an iPad, that they can just scroll through, and don't tell them, scroll and tell me what you like. Just
Mm.
observe the child, because they will tell you what they want.
Mm-hmm.
And when I live in New York and I work in New York, and it always saddens me that children here in New York, their idea, for many of the millions of children in New York, their idea of nature is a public playground. And in
Right.
that public playground, there is a set of rules that you can't walk on the grass, you can't touch this, you can't climb the tree, you can't do. But that's nature. So nature is already telling you you cannot interact with me, you know.
Yeah.
And if
That's
you
so
do, you
sad.
will get in trouble. Whereas I grew
Right.
up, right next to the national park in Kenya, and there was always a lion breaking out, and that was part of my life. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? Like I was nature. I was prey, in this landscape that I was living in. So that really is what drove me to start thinking about designing in a way where children can actually go climb that tree, can have all the colors they want in the garden, can
Mm-hmm.
can feel part of this thing, that is here for them, and that they come from. You know what I mean? That they
Yep.
come from. I don't know if I answered your question, but when I transpose this to interior design, as designers, we always have this vision, and we say, okay, my next garden is going to be this. My next room is going to be this. I'm going to use this fabric. I'm going to do it in a Leila Manshari style. I'm going to, do XYZ for my next room, right?
Yep.
But that next room will be inhabited by people, so your idea will be the world in which people live in. And how accommodating is that idea? How friendly is that idea? How does that idea and that part of you make people feel,
Mm-hmm.
because you may be wanting to have some Louis whatever style room where everybody's walking in like this, and oh my god, if I touch that, it's going to topple over, and it looks really great when you create it, but it's hostile,
Right.
so
Yeah.
it has to. And this is why I said when I was talking, design is in any way, shape, or form is never like this. It's never something you bring into. It's not like this. Design is like that,
Yes.
and it
Yes.
goes. And
I
that is the beauty of design.
I seem to remember you saying that when you did this one particular garden, you chose it was all in one color
It
because
was all in blues.
so to
Yes.
keep the stimulation level kind of tempered for these
Mm-hmm.
children or this particular child,
It
and I
was
thought
all
that
in
was
it was
so
all in shades
fascinating.
of yeah, it was all in shades of blue. It was all soft, all the petals, so I went through every, the plant palette and just made it a soft experience. So when you walk out of the house, there's nothing jarring, there's no thorns looking at you, there's no, branches coming at you. It was just a soft, bubbly, fluffy, cloudy, you know, palette.
Yeah.
And I
So,
think that's that. I mean, what exactly is what you're saying is a lot of people. I don't know if they look at design interior or exterior, but it's the way it makes you feel is
Exactly.
really what it's all about.
Mhm.
It's your
yeah.
experience. And I know you design that way, and that's what I love about you.
There are some people who do want a house, that's show offy, that's a showstopper. They want people
Mhm.
to walk
Yeah.
in and be like, oh my God, they have money, or oh my God, they have all these, incredible
Mhm.
things, or oh, I'm very intimidated. There are people who want that. There are people who want a garden, that is very, that looks like Queen Elizabeth lives there,
Mhm.
So we give them what they want, you know. And we also try and work with intention, right?
Yeah.
Yes. When we visited this client yesterday that we hadn't seen in 17 years, we designed her entire home, and her husband
Mm-hmm.
passed a year ago, and it's kind of time for her to refresh and think about the next phase of her life. And when we pulled into the driveway, she came out of the garage and she saw us and she instantly started crying.
Oh,
And it was just it was it
Yeah.
was so sad, but at the same time it made me feel so good that we meant a lot to her and we were going to be a part of this next phase of her life that she didn't really think was coming because he died very
mm-hmm,
suddenly.
mm-hmm.
It was really quite
Yeah.
beautiful. We spent 3 hours together yesterday,
Yeah.
and
The
I loved it.
relationships that you have, I see it,
Hmm.
it does matter, and it is the whole package.
Yes. Yeah.
It
So
is, it is.
I believe that, and I think it's really good for people to know that
Yeah.
there are designers that do have that intention, and it's not just about a pretty space for
Yes.
some. For some,
Yes.
I always find that I get along very well with clients. I always say if a client spends money on plants, they are a very good person,
Yeah.
because people will do the house up, and spare no expense for the house. But when you find that client who does the same for the garden, that is like the ideal, like, that is heaven, because they get
Yes.
it. They get,
Yes.
they get it. They get it. They get the totality. They get it. So,
You're so right.
yeah.
So for it's spring and
mhm.
everything here in Atlanta is blooming like mad. So
And I
if
lived there for a little while.
you did, yes, because I
I
know you have a
did.
404 cell phone number. So I was like, what is
Yes.
this?
Yes. I met my
Um,
husband there. I lived there for a little while. Uh-huh.
so for those people who have not discovered the joy of playing in the dirt, how do you recommend people start? Maybe they live in a city or they didn't grow up like you did in the, running free in the gardens and outside. And
Yeah.
how do you plant these seeds with people literally so that they can start to enjoy what we're talking
Well, I
about?
think the easiest way to start is just start with an herb garden, you know.
Yeah.
And if you start with a bunch of rosemaries, a bunch of lavender, a bunch of sage, you're already out there picking and pruning to cook, right? So and
Right.
and it smells wonderful and it smells fabulous, and lavender, sage, rosemary, you could run over it with a truck and it'll come back. It's, you
Yeah,
don't
it's
have to
true.
think
True.
about it.
It's
And
true.
Yeah,
when
same with
when
mint.
planted,
Basil. Yeah.
yes, exactly, exactly. But mint, you've got to be careful because you put it in, it'll take
It'll
over everything.
it will take
But
over.
if you start with that, I always say, if you have a tiny little lot or a large lot, and you just get three different species of lavender that work in your climate,
Mhm.
and a couple of rosemaries and some sage, and just that alone can create a very beautiful garden. That alone, and you just let it go for 2 years, and you'll just have a wonderful Mediterranean, looking garden that you eat from, and that
And they're
gives you
happy
so
in
much
pots and they're
peace.
happy in the ground. So
And
that's
they're
easy.
happy in pots and happy in the ground. And also nasturtiums. Nasturtiums are just like my happy little plant. I always say, if you could just have nasturtium in a pot by the door or out in a sunny spot, it's always just so nice to
I
come
need you to
see
spell that. I need you to spell that for me.
Yeah, she's going to go
nasturtium.
get it at Pike's.
Can I put it in the? I'll put it in the chat. NAS nasturtium. NASTURTIUM. Nasturtium.
There we
Okay.
go.
So
Does it bloom?
yeah. Oh yes, and edible flowers that you can put in your salads.
Okay.
So
We'll be going to
it's
Pike's later to see if they have them.
yeah. Just make sure that you get there they are. Yeah. So
Oh, thank you,
Oh,
Russ.
wow.
Oh,
Yeah.
yes, those are beautiful.
yeah, so if you have, I
Even to
mean, and they're
garnish your
so
plate.
happy, you get 3 different species, different colors, of the nasturtium, and you have those in a happy pot in a sunny spot in the garden, and you just walk home and you're just so 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 happy. The most
Yeah.
beautiful nasturtiums that I saw were they were in they were in a temple. I think it was in Bhutan, in a Buddhist temple, and the monks had them in like a just like a leftover tin can, and that they had planted them and they had crawled all over the temple wall, and it was just so fabulous. So just these little things
Yeah.
can just brighten up your day. But for anybody looking for a garden, I think the rosemary, sage, lavender mix is just perfect for anybody.
Yes.
And don't
Yes.
just get one. You've got to get 5, 6 of each, and then and then they just create this magnificent Mediterranean, you know.
Are
Yeah.
they happy partners together in the same pot?
They're all from the same family. Okay, here we get technical.
Oh,
They're from the Lamiaceae family, which is the mint family,
okay.
so they all get along. So
Okay.
yeah,
All right. Because
they're
I
not
know
going to bother
some.
each other.
Okay. Because
Yeah,
that is a thing, right? Some don't
yeah,
play well with others.
yeah. So
Yeah.
they're happy cousins. They'll be just fine.
That's good. Yeah. Because my mint
Yeah.
just took over my basil last
Oh
summer.
no, you got to
Yeah. It
put
was
mint in a
crazy.
pot. You can never
Yeah.
have that in the ground. It's always got to be in a pot because it will
Yeah.
take. It's like a what is that? Wisteria. I always say I love wisteria in other people's houses. I love to see
Yeah. Like
it.
bamboo.
But it does
Yeah.
take
In
off.
other people's houses. Yes, bamboo and septic, exactly. In
Yes.
fact, I had a friend who had a home in Stone Mountain, Georgia, many, many years ago, and she had bamboo, and I was like, oh God, this is like the worst
Oh,
thing
yeah.
you could do, because she had septic, and sure enough, the bamboo went in there, and it was
Oh,
it
yeah.
was a mess.
It's so invasive. It's crazy.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Yes.
Well, I want to have a whole nother show on all of your travels and the
Oh,
little tidbits of lessons learned in gardens and nature in all the
mm.
places that you've traveled. So
I'll
we might
I'll
have
be
to we
going.
might have
Yeah.
to plan that.
We might have to do another one. I'm going to London in 2 weeks. I'm going to be going for the Society of Garden Designers. I'm going to be chairing the conference this year, and I cannot wait. And I already have all my stuff lined up. I'm going to see Nell at the Chelsea Physic Garden. I'm going to go see this person over here. I'm going to see that person over here, and I got to squeeze it all into 1 week. And
So
take as
That's
many pictures.
amazing.
can we follow you on Instagram?
Yeah, sure. I'm
Will you be
I'm not
posting?
as active as I used to be just because of busyness, but I am coming back.
So where
I'm
can
gonna put it
people
in the chat.
follow you?
So it is Wambui Loves Plants. I don't know if Russ can stick it up there, but I had a very extensive Instagram that is now I've archived a lot of the posts just because I want to rearrange everything. But I'll
Yeah.
be bringing it back up. But I'm still on there. I just haven't
Okay.
been
So it's
as
Wambui
florid.
Wambui Loves Plants.
Exactly.
WAMBUI
You
loves plants.
exactly. All one word. Yep, that's
Got
me.
it.
Yep.
Okay.
And I don't just
Awesome.
post about plants. I post about all kinds of things that inspire
Okay.
me.
Well,
So
good.
The
Well, good.
the totality.
It is. It is.
yes,
It's all about the person, right?
exactly. This is
I
this is
know.
what being an artist is, and just as an aside, I sometimes I go to these homes and this so and so interior designer did this and that. And it's amazing to me that you can tell you can tell. You can tell who really has the eye and who's
Yeah.
what I call the social media, you know, influencer designer, or social
Yes.
media
Yes.
influencer gardener or social media influencer musician or whatever it is. It is the
Yes.
totality of everything. It is in the everything.
I question any interior designer that isn't part empath,
Mm-hmm.
because I feel like that's super important.
Yeah. I
It's
think
got to
most
come
are.
from a very heartfelt place, everything we do. And if it doesn't, I don't know, it's not
Yeah. I think there are a
not
lot
our
of
jam.
people like that in our industry. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the
Well,
home goods and the home goods designer. I call them the home
yes.
goods
Yeah.
designer.
Ex-
Yeah,
exactly.
not to knock anybody because we all come from somewhere and we all start and we all we work our way up.
Mhm. This is true. Well,
Yes.
you've just been such a pleasure. And when we met you at C Next and we saw you speaking, we knew there was just so much to discuss. So I know we've just kind of tipped
Touched.
our toe into these discussions, but I hope we really just got people thinking about the importance of, like you're saying, the whole person, the whole design, the importance of nature, the importance of gardens, and bringing it in, and leaning on people like you for that extra knowledge and beauty. So
And
important.
also sharing what we know, and I'm always learning. I
Yes.
always, and I never want to be in a place where I'm not learning. I mean, behind me here, my bookshelf is just filled with books I'm not going to read now. I'll probably read them 20 years from now, but I have them. you know
Yes.
and it's about learning and sharing and being kind. There's a
So
there's
true.
there's a thing to be said about being kind. And I recently helped someone. She One of the girls who was working with me came to me and said, "Oh, I'd really like to move. I want to move to this farm. I'd like to work." And I said, "Yeah, let me help you." And she got this really great job. And I said to her, "Now that you're there, you have to move it forward. You have to pass it forward, and you have
Mhm.
to find someone who would never otherwise have the chance to do this. So don't give it to your friend that would get this, who has the ability to get this job. Find somebody that will never have this chance because of their background, because of where they were born, because of their financial status, because their ethnicity, their religion, whatever. Find someone who would never get this chance and then give them that chance. So we
What a
have to
great
be kind.
approach.
This is art. Yes, this is
This
what
is
it
why we
is.
go to Guatemala every summer and we build homes and we do what we do.
Um,
And we're leaving in June. So can't
Good
wait.
for you.
Yeah.
Y
Well, hold
buena
on a
suerte.
minute. Yes, thank you. Um, well, hold on for a minute while we do our funny and serious quotes that we end our show with.
Okay.
um, which one do you want?
I'll take either one. They're both good.
Okay, here's the funny quote. Once you've seen a woman take her bra off without removing her shirt, it makes sense why they should be in charge of everything. And that is from This is Liberty Road on Instagram. And
And
it's
that,
so
and
true. I mean, how many times have you done that? Right? We're
listen,
all good
it's
at it.
summertime here. It's about to happen every day in this house. So
Just get this thing off.
Yeah. As soon as I
get
walk in
this
the door.
thing off
Yeah.
and get dinner going. That's me. I come home and
That's
and then get
yep.
dinner
So
going.
our serious quote comes from somebody very special. The serious quote comes from Wambui.
Oh,
And her quote is, "I am woman. Hear me roar. Nature gives to us all in equal measure."
I
That's
yes,
love
beautiful.
there is
that.
enough.
That's beautiful.
There is enough. There is enough to go around and then some. And think about it this way: we all die and we all go back to nature. She has never said, "I can't take another body. I can't take another coffin. I can't take." She keeps taking because she's so big and she keeps giving. There's enough for us. There's enough, and we should be in joy in this creation. We should be in joy. So
I like
Oh,
I
thank
like
you.
the way you think,
I like
Wamboy.
the way you think for sure.
Well, thank
Well,
you.
thank you
Thank
so
you.
much. You're so busy and we appreciate you making the time to
Yeah.
come and chat with us and share everything. And tell us your website again so people can go and keep in touch
What
with
is
you.
my website? I think my website is wambuidesign.com. I don't even know
Yeah.
if I think it is. Yes,
Yep.
Russ, you got it.
wambuidesign.com.
There we go.
Very
And
good.
thank you to Russ in the background there for doing
Yeah.
all this.
He does a good
Without
job.
whom we would be lost. Thank you.
This is so true.
Well,
Yes.
thank you so much. And we want to thank Tebow again for sponsoring us. We love you guys. And if you are going to High Point, you want to see one of the prettiest, best showrooms in all of High
It
Point,
is.
you must go to Tebow for sure. And don't forget to reach out, review, rate us, and
Like us.
like
follow
us, and call us when you have your next design project, because we are
Yes.
still open to booking new clients.
Yes.
So
It was a pleasure, Wambui. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, ladies. Fantastic.
you.
I'm
Okay.
so happy I
Okay.
met you in Cabo. And
Thank you.
I hope I see
Thanks
you
for
again
listening.
in another scene next. Thank you.
absolutely.
Thank you for
absolutely.
listening, everybody.
Bye.
Goodbye.
Join Joanne and Kelly for a new episode every other Friday as they continue to explore the nuances of the interior design business with the goal of informing, inspiring, and entertaining their listeners. See their work at kandrac-kole.com and engage with them on Facebook and Instagram at Kandrac Kole.